Drug testing has been used for decades to help assess who may be mentally impaired at work, but quite frankly, it only detects drugs in the system, and with varying amounts of accuracy. It can't detect if you're mentally sharp enough to handle the challenges of a hazardous job. Hi, I'm Rachel with Ally Safety, and throughout my career, drug testing has been an expectation for every job I've had. As a safety pro, I've also managed drug testing programs, helped to decide when there's reasonable suspicion to test someone, talked to employees who are angry that the random drug test algorithm has pulled their name for 3 months in a row, and I've even had to devote 1-inch swaths of my own hair from the crown of my head to be taken so that they can test me for drugs before I start a new job.
Huh?
Obviously, I think many of you can probably relate. So in today's video, we're going to talk about 10 reasons why drug testing fails to do what we're expecting to do, and we're going to try a game app that claims it might be able to close that gap. So let's get going. I know most people think that as a safety pro, I probably love drug testing, and I want to know what everyone does in their free time so I can be in the middle of their business. But that's not actually the case. Not for me and not for a lot of safety people. I'm also not the type to be like, you get a drug test, and you get a drug test, and you get a drug test. And I'll tell you why. In the United States, 40 to 50 million workplace drug tests are estimated to be taken every single year. Now, that's a lot of time, money, and bodily fluids. With that being said, here are 10 reasons why, as a safety professional, I think drug tests are basically overused and inappropriately relied on. Number 1, 20% of employees who are involved in fatal accidents tested positive for alcohol or drug use after the event, which if the employee was in a fatal accident, drug testing, whether random or pre-employment, failed to prevent this accident. Drug testing on a daily basis is just too expensive and invasive to be feasible, so there are a lot of missed opportunities to intervene before an incident actually occurs. Number 2, drug testing doesn't account for most prescription drugs, and we've all heard the ads.
Do not use while driving or operating heavy machinery.
Number 3, drug testing is invasive. Did I mention that they took my hair? They also take blood, saliva, and as many of you know, many tests involve a nurse watching you pee into a cup. It's not exactly dignified. Number 4, drugs stay in your system a varied amount of time, and the type of test you use can massively impact your results. And as a safety professional who works in states where marijuana has been legal for quite a while, I'm not particularly interested if someone ate an edible 2 months ago. What I want to know is if they're going to be able to perform their job competently and safely that day. Number 5, marijuana continues to top the list of the most detected illicit substances across all workforce categories. Part of this is because it can be detected for so long, and with it being legal in so many places, employers are often left to try to differentiate between a positive test and if employees are able to do their job safely. Now, there's not a great field sobriety test for this. It's an inexact science at best, so it's just not a great solution. Number 6, CBD products are widespread and can cause you to fail a drug test, because studies have found that most are contaminated with measurable levels of THC. So what I'm saying is, you could theoretically fail a drug test without ever having been mentally impaired by drugs. Number 7, 17 to 19 hours without sleep is actually the same as having a blood alcohol content of 0.08, which is considered legally intoxicated in many states. And no drug test will be able to tell you how fatigued you are. However, studies by NIOSH and OSHA show that incident rates are 3 times higher among workers who sleep less than 5 hours per night. So that's kind of a big miss. Number 8, roughly 23% of self-reported drug users have cheated on drug tests. Number 9, Quest Diagnostics reported a 34.5% increase in failed drug tests in transportation and warehousing between 2015 and 2018. Other industries are also seeing an increase, meaning that drug testing isn't necessarily deterring employees from doing drugs. Number 10. And lastly, I think that the focus on drugs as the biggest culprit to mental impairment at work has been pretty short-sighted. We've probably all had a time in our lives when we've showed up to work where we could be classified as impaired, and it definitely wouldn't show up on a drug test. So think of times where maybe you're going through a bad breakup or a divorce, maybe you were sleep deprived, sick, or maybe you're dealing with another emotional situation like grief, legal problems, financial problems, or any other time that you were too distracted to really be mentally focused and ready to work. And no drug test is ever going to detect what you're going through or help you to avoid an accident. Okay, I said it. For those of you who want to disagree in the comments, you are more than welcome to, and I will read your comments and respond to them. But if any of you agree, let me know that as well. That being said, drug testing does a good job at recognizing who has a consistent drug use problem and who may be a risk to themselves and others at work. But it doesn't solve the problem of identifying people who are impaired and are a risk to themselves and others if they're doing hazardous tasks. Frankly, it wasn't designed to do that. So we need to stop expecting it to solve problems that drug testing just can't solve. So when I heard there was an app out there that may offer a more sophisticated solution that would help to close the gap that's left by drug testing alone, I definitely wanted to try it out. Now, the app is called AlertMeter, and it's different from drug testing, and that is intentional. What they call themselves is a fit-for-duty game app, and it was designed for the workplace to identify fatigue and other impaired mental states. It was originally developed as a response to the problems that led up to the Exxon Valdez incident. And it's actually based on science that was developed by NASA to help ensure that astronauts were fit for their work. Most importantly for us in safety, it identifies fatigue and other problems that will influence our mental state. Because the app is intended to be used daily, it's proactive, and that, in my mind, could potentially help to prevent accidents and injuries. The nice thing is it also works with no matter what language you speak, so it works throughout the workforce, and without any sort of medical testing, so it's not invasive. When I looked into it, they had some pretty impressive stats as well. In their client case study, AlertMeter claims that customers have seen reductions in workers' comp rates. They also claim that reductions in employee turnover have been as high as 35%, and improvements in productivity have been as high as 11%. So let's check out the app and see what it actually is like. First things first, you're going to establish a baseline by taking 3 tests per day for 3 days in a row. The tests basically look like this. After you've got a baseline, you take the test at the beginning of each shift, and it takes 60 to 90 seconds of playing the game once a day. I started using this app and set up several people as volunteers. What happens is if they score below their baseline, I, as their supervisor, check in with them to see how they're doing. Now, some examples of what can cause you to score below your baseline are things that you've probably all experienced, like being exhausted, maybe from staying up all night for fun or with a sick kid, coming down with the flu, having a hangover, the use of a medication that can cause drowsiness or impact concentration, a relationship crisis like divorce, death, or other bad news. Okay, so that's all you need to know, and here's how it went. The first volunteer I got was Hillary. She prepares weapons for movie sets, and due to the tragedy that recently happened on the Rust film set, we now all have an appreciation for how important these roles actually are. Hillary usually scored well, but one day I got an email alert that she had scored below her baseline. So what I did is I checked in with her to see how she was doing. What she said is that she was so tired she was actually falling asleep while taking the test. Had she been an employee I was responsible for, I would have been able to flex her work schedule so maybe she could get caught up on some sleep or assign her to tasks for the day that were less hazardous. It was nice because she was able to get a better, like, scientific way of understanding her own mental state, and it was also good because she was able to have somebody check in on her. The other participants had similar experiences. Here's what it was like for the other participants.
Using the AlertMeter app was really cool for my brother and I, because after we had initially established our baseline, taking those tests at the beginning, then throughout the following week, anytime we took a test and the results were below baseline, we basically were able to trace it back to a cause for that. Could be anything from sleep deprivation to dehydration to increased amounts of stress, even being hungry, haven't eaten for a while, and you're getting kind of lethargic. All of those things played a role. It was super cool being able to take the tests and seeing our results and tracing them back to any of those reasons and figuring that that's why we were below our baseline.
So, the final conclusion? I think this app is actually a great way for people to be more aware of their own level of alertness. It's a good way to check in with yourself. Secondly, I think it's also nice to have a supervisor who can check in on you and adjust your work if you're at risk. Just as long as it's done with the right attitude, I think it could be positive culturally. And third, I love any safety solution that has actual measurable results. In safety, our key performance indicators are critical. And as a safety consultant, I always want to find solutions for my clients that will have measurable results and make real differences. So in that way, I think that it could be a really good solution. The only thing that I'd like to add is it would be cool to see how it works with a bigger group. So what did you think? Let me know in the comments below. A big thank you to AlertMeter for letting us try out their product, and a big thank you to you for watching. Again, make sure to comment below and let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.